Good evening, everyone. This is Geraldo Lemos Neto from Belo Horizonte, Brazil, Portal Saber Espiritismo, the To Know Spiritism portal. We are here to give you the continuing studies about Chico Xavier's work. Welcome, everyone from DSN, Discovery Spiritism Network, and also everyone from Kardec Radio, and also everyone that are our friends at Portal Saber Espiritismo in Brazil. We are here, me and Marco Gandra, to present you the study today. This is the 10th program that we are talking about Chico Xavier's work, its importance to Spiritism, and today we are going to talk about its role, Chico Xavier's role in the planetary transition. Please, let's see another slide. And this is a very important issue, and it's very close to us because we are living in this planetary transition that all of us are feeling and thinking about in all religions and also schools of philosophy. Everyone is talking about that. Allan Kardec, in its early stages, in his early books, also taught about that to us, and we learn with Allan Kardec that all the worlds in the universe, that they also progress. We, as a world, Earth as a world is also progressing and is in the middle of this planetary transition to be a regenerated planet. So let's see the other one, please. What's Chico Xavier's role in this transition? That's the main reason of our talk today. The next slide, please. We can see from the book of Joel. I'm sorry, it's written John, but it's wrong. It's Joel, the book of the late Testament, chapter 2, verse 28 and 29, that was also cited by the Acts of the Apostle, written by Lucas, also chapter 2, verse 17 and 18. We can read, "In the last days, saith the Lord, rip out of my spirit upon all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your youth will have visions, and your old ones will have dreams. These days I will spread my spirit on my servers and network, and they will prophesy." This is very important verse in the late Testament and also in the New Testament at the Acts of the Apostle, because we can see here that the last days for Earth as a planet of expiatory transition to going to progress to a planet of regeneration. We can see that the main characteristic of this transition is mediumship, as we can read here. Mediumship would be very much improved and also would be very much spread all over the world in this very moment, so that we can now understand that we are in this position, in this period of time, the transition, the planetary transition, because we can see that mediumship would play an important role in the process. The Lord is saying that He would rip out His Spirit upon all flesh. The sons and daughters, our sons and our daughters would prophesy. Our youth would have visions, and our old ones would have dreams. What is he talking about? He is talking about mediumship. Different types, different kinds of mediumships that we can understand through the Spiritist doctrine. We can understand through the works of Allan Kardec and also the works of Chico Xavier. And in the next one, we can also think and meditate about what Chico Xavier told me and told through his works, the deadline according to Chico Xavier, the time limit to the transition time that Earth would experience. And please, the next one. And so that we now can talk about the important role of Chico Xavier in this moment. As you can know and study in the late book of Allan Kardec, the Genesis, Allan Kardec would, in the chapter 18, that talk about the transition time, the transitory movement towards the regeneration era, that the higher spirits told him at the 19th century. As you know, his late book was published in 1868, in January of 1868, 1 year prior to his discarnation. So he was told by the higher spirits that the transition time for Earth began 100 years before the coming of the Spirit's book. So that we know the Spirit's books came on the 18th of April, 1857, and so that 100 years prior to that date would be 1757. And Chico Xavier, in the second program, TV program, live TV program, that he attended, the Pinga Fogo program, in the Tupi TV in São Paulo, Brazil, on the 23rd of December 1971. The people there asked him many questions. It was a program of more than 5 hours of duration. And one of the questions were just about the time, the right time that Earth would be a regenerated planet. And Chico Xavier at that time responded to the question, saying that Emmanuel, his mentor, was stating that the Earth would come to be a regenerated planet in the year 2057. That's very interesting because 2057 is 200 years after the inauguration of the Spirit's book on Earth. 200 years after 1857, April, is April 2057, the same year that Emmanuel says that the Earth will be a regenerated planet. So that what's the conclusion we can come about with this subject? The conclusion is that the transition time that Earth is living, stopping to be a planet of expiatory situations, and also trials and expiatory situations, as we still are at this moment. And in the transition time of 300 years, 3 centuries, it would be transformed to a regenerated planet. So the time of the transition of this planetary condition from one to another higher condition is 300 years, from 1757 to 2057. And let's now meditate. What's this man's role in this process? We can see that please, the next one. We can see that through his wonderful hands, we have nowadays 525 books already published in various publishers, and this is very, very much important, because as we talked about in the 9 programs before this one, Chico Xavier received all kinds of instructions, knowledge, consolations, letters, all kinds of works in different literature genres, so that we could receive all this information from the higher spirit world towards the earth and understand the moment, the important moment that we are living in. So, if we can add this enormous work of 75 years of dedication to mediumship with Jesus and the Spiritist doctrine that was performed by Chico Xavier in Brazil, in the city of Pedro Leopoldo until 1959, and in the city of Uberaba, both in the state of Minas Gerais, until the year 2002, when he passed away. If we can add this extraordinary work with the work of Allan Kardec himself, that worked for 15 years in France, from 1854 until 1869. We are talking about more than 560 books of higher instructions. So what those works, both works from Allan Kardec and from Chico Xavier, gave us to understand the Spiritist doctrine. Because what's the goal here? The goal here is to understand the Spiritism. The name of this program is To Know Spiritism. What they gave us with their work, with their renounce, they gave us perspective. Please, Gandra. Yes, they gave us perspective, a new perspective on life, a new perspective understanding our role, our position, our spiritual position, that we are not material beings, that we are spiritual beings living in a material experience in a transitory matter. So, and we can communicate with one to another, beings here on earth and beings, souls that are discarnate. This communication is known by the word of mediumship. There are lots of kinds of mediumships. The spirits influence our lives. They communicate with us, and they can influence our lives in a good or in a bad way. It depends on our choices here, and so that we know, we can also understand that there is a law of cause and effect, that we will have in the future the fruits of what we are seeding, we are planting today. And we can also understand that we live a great number of incarnations. The reincarnation is a fact. We can understand through Spiritism that there are many plans of life here on earth itself. The material plan, as we know and understand, and also different spiritual plans of life. And also we can understand that we are not the only one humanity created by God, that all the universe is populated by other humanities, the extraterrestrial humanities, that all of them are our brothers also, and we are part of a great family in the whole universe known, and also in other universes. So as we understand those principles, those important principles, we can now have a different perspective on life. And this is very important because we understand that Spiritism came for a reason. As I told you, the transition time for Earth began in 1757. 100 years after that came Spiritism. And its challenges for the present times is exactly to give us spirit, to give us knowledge, to give us understanding of our role and our lives, and also our position in the universe as God's creatures. And this understanding is very important, so that the whole earth itself can go towards the regeneration time. That's the main reason Spiritism came about. As Allan Kardec taught us in his work, The Spirit's Book, in the introduction, he says, "The study of Spiritism is immense, links to all issues of metaphysics and the social order. It's a whole world that opens before us. Will it be surprising that it requires time, and a lot of time, for its accomplishment?" So Allan Kardec was aware that Spiritism would have to have time to spread all over the earth, would have to have time to be studied and to be taught, and also that mediumship would have an important role in this process. So we can understand the position of Chico Xavier as the most renowned, the most important medium in the Spiritist doctrine. We can say that Chico Xavier himself was the most important medium. He had all kinds of mediumships. He had all kinds of psychic powers that we can say that after Jesus Christ himself, Chico Xavier was the most important uh, medium in our world. So this question is the answer to this question is obvious. What was the role of Chico Xavier's mediumship on the planetary transition? The answer is obvious. It was the most important role because more than 3,000 spirits wrote through him, also talked to him, also inspired him. He could see he could see them, and also he would make contact with other worlds in his 75 years of acting mediumship works. I like very much what the journalist Fernando Worm wrote in his book A Ponte, The Bridge. Fernando Worm was a journalist from the state of Rio Grande do Sul. He lived in the city of Guaíba, and in the conclusion of his book, he made, I think, 3 books interviewing Chico Xavier in the early 1970s. And the most important one is A Ponte, Diálogos com Chico Xavier. The Bridge, Dialogues with Chico Xavier. And he concluded, Fernando Worm concluded this important sentence that I share with you with most joy, because I think he understood the importance of Chico Xavier at that very time. He wrote, "The work of the medium Xavier is a remarkable work of a spiritual team whose plain and clear goal is the completion of the third revelation as it was promised by Christ." So he understood after interviewing Chico, long sessions of interviews, after having a close contact with Chico Xavier in Uberaba, traveling from Rio Grande do Sul to Minas Gerais in Uberaba, and having the opportunity to see Chico's life and Chico's examples and Chico's work, mediumship works, he understood that all of Chico Xavier's doing was the completion of the third revelation, the consoler that was promised to us by Jesus Christ himself, as we can read in the Gospel of John. And it was the completion also of the first movement to understand the Spiritist doctrine that was given to us by Allan Kardec the prior century, in the 19th century in France. So Allan Kardec was the introduction, the first compilation and the codification of the Spiritism doctrine. He wrote the 5 most important pillars of the Spiritist doctrine. As a whole, we can say that he published 33 books, including all those years of the Spiritist Review, and Chico Xavier was the second part of this work of revelations. The second important part in this process of opening the understanding of humanity towards the spiritual world. And Fernando Worm knew that in a very clear thought as we just read. In the next, we can see some of Chico Xavier's work that were very important, the works of Emmanuel, the works of André Luiz, the works of Humberto de Campos, all spirits that had different focus, different goals, but as a whole, I talked about in the 9 prior programs, as a whole, they all completed the spiritual work through Chico Xavier, consoling and instructing us about all matters regarding to our lives, regarding to the spiritual world, regarding to the evolution of our spirits. So after that, what we can say? We can say that after the change of perspective, that we are spiritual beings in a transitory position here on earth, in a transitory experience on the matter. We have now, after studying all those books, after assessing all this knowledge that Allan Kardec and Chico Xavier gave us, we can for sure state that we are now having an expansion of our consciousness. We no longer can go back, because lots of doors and lots of windows for our understanding about the outside world have been open. And we will close this program today by showing you the saying of Albert Einstein in the next slide. And Albert Einstein said very much. Please, Gandra. A cool advice that he once said, and it's very appropriate to our study today. And please. The mind that opens to a new idea never returns to its original size. Albert Einstein. So that's why after we get to understand a different perspective on life given to us by the Spiritist doctrine, and after reading, after meditating, and after studying all those works of Allan Kardec, of Chico Xavier, and all the spirits that communicated to them or through them, we have an expansion of our consciousness, and we cannot no longer come back, no longer go back, because our mind had been open to new ideas, to new perspectives, to new consciousness, and we cannot return to our prior knowledge or prior size. And that's very, very much important. I thank you so much for being with me today. Me and Marco Gandra here, we are very pleased that you are with us, and you all have a good night. Until the next week, we are going to continue to talk about Chico Xavier's role in the transition time. Have you all a good night.